Hello everyone, we'll be going live here in just about 5 minutes at 7 p.m. Eastern on the dot. We're going to be going over the usual rundown of technical analysis of the big three. We're also going to be looking at Bitcoin Cash, OMG, and Dash. And we will cover LTC as well. Just waiting a few minutes for people to come in here. Yes, I am cooler because I have long hair. I am not a nerd. I love the comments. Very entertaining. Just did an interview with Nuggets News. The video's on my channel as well as his channel. Pretty much talking about, general overview of things. He's more fundamental, I'm more technical, so we just shoot ideas back and forth with each other. So worth checking that out. And we'll get going here in just a few moments. As far as the face here, some people like the face, some people think it's distracting. So I'll probably just do it when live and keep it just the charts when doing the recorded videos. But I am going to play around with a green screen, maybe get some goats in the background, maybe broadcast from space. .5% commission fee is pretty steep. Certainly enjoying GDAX no fees with limit orders. If that's the only option you have to take it, unfortunately. Very cool, everybody from around the world. Indonesia, Texas in the house. Lots of Canadians. We've had a lot of Canadians join the chat rooms recently due to the Canadian MJ boom. I'm going to look at everything on the weekly time frames and get a longer term perspective of things. I know a lot of people are swing traders out there, can't do the day trading thing, so I want to give perspective from all time frames. Wow, we got the whole world covered. So right now, one of the main things we're watching is correlations, as always, because they are always shifting. We have ETH and LTC certainly subject to correlations with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin sees further weakness, and then when Bitcoin bounces, it bounces for ETH and LTC as well. They are still in a bullish uptrend on the daily time frame. That gives them an advantage. But if we dump in Bitcoin, it is going to negatively affect ETH and LTC with the way that the last 24, 48 hours have been going. And ETH did break that correlation just a bit earlier today to be even a bit more bullish. Right now, ETH is the most bullish of the big three. And Litecoin is second, and Bitcoin is third. And just some things I want to point out, which I talked about with Alex in his Nugget News interview, was the potential of further downside in Bitcoin, comparing this to the China FUD, looking at the weekly time frame here. And the China FUD, we pulled back 40%. So if we were to pull back 40% from 7,900, the all-time high of Bitcoin, that would be about 4,700. So if we were to see another leg down and drop $800 lower than we've seen to this point, that would be a 40% pullback. Certainly put out a Canadian MJ video. Canadian MJ has been on fire this month. So yeah, I definitely suggest, as I've always been suggesting, learning technical analysis and applying it to all kinds of markets because there's opportunity everywhere. It is not just in the cryptocurrency space. Right now I've got about half of my capital in cryptos and half of my capital in my stock trading account and just trading Canadian MJ and cryptocurrencies and having a record year and just smashing the opportunity when it's there because it doesn't always stick around. So back to on topic, let's get into it. It's close enough to 7. So we've got the cryptocurrency space. We've got Bitcoin pulling back. And if you look at this weekly chart, we've been on fire 6 weeks in a row, all-time highs. we haven't really even pulled back that far if you look at this weekly chart. So if we look at this China FUD, that's the last consolidation that we've seen on this weekly chart, and we established a higher low and saw continuation. So now we're looking to establish another higher low. I do not feel that our bottom is in yet. I do believe we will have another leg down. And I point to the fact that we pulled back 40% last time. We haven't pulled back that much this time. That would take us to 4,700. And I'm watching the 4-hour time frame, which I'll look at in just a minute and compare the two. But right now, looking at the daily chart, and the daily chart right now is entering some previous price support levels. If we break 55.11, which I do believe we will, after a short-term bounce from here, then we will be looking down at 53.76, and the next level after that is 51.02, and then 5,000 psychological after that. So there are a few support levels now. We're entering ranges of previous price history on the daily chart. We'll be watching for the daily RSI to get oversold. Look at the last two consolidation periods we've had. We had a significant pullback where the RSI bounced off of 30 and we hit new all-time highs. We had another dump on the China FUD. We bounced off of 30 RSI just below it and hit new all-time highs. So right now the daily RSI is in the low 40s. We have a long way down before we get to oversold levels. If we were to drop to 4,700 in the next few days, that would get us down towards that point. So that is something I'm keeping an eye on. But what I'm watching right now is the fact that this bounce has completely, not completely, but almost faded completely. So we do have a higher low forming right now. We have our low. The high of the bounce is our new resistance level at 64.86. And if you want to know how I played, I'm not going to go into details. I talked about it on that Nugget News interview, talked about my trading game plan on yesterday's video before it even happened. But I had my orders staggered below 6,000, entered overnight, wasn't even watching the climax of that dump, and then woke up and sold in the low 6,000 range. But that was just having the game plan established. So I highly suggest going back and checking that video just to see, you know, what my mindset was and how I established that game plan, so I wasn't panicking as things were dumping and just had to wait for the orders to fill and then lock in that profit. So right now we have the high of the bounce, 64.86. We have our higher low, and that is at 56.52, and the bulls are trying to bounce from there. So we look at the 4-hour time frame and say, how significant is this bounce? And at this point, this bounce is very weak. So I'm seeing the last lower high on this hourly time frame was up at 61.86. So anything under 61.86 is going to be just another lower high in this pattern. So we could bounce all the way to 6,000, and looks like we might get there, but it will just be another lower high. In order for the bulls to turn this trend around, we're going to have to bounce, pull back, set a higher low, and then a higher high to break the lower high pattern on the hourly. I don't think we're going to dump down and break 55.11 tonight. It's certainly possible that we do that, but I do believe that if that is going to occur, it will be tomorrow or Tuesday. I do believe that we have enough of a bounce right now to stabilize in the mid 5,000 range, at least the mid to upper 5,000 range, at least overnight. So that's what we're going to be watching. We have the 15-minute time frame showing this oversold bounce, the RSI dipping down under 30, and we are just now watching the hourly. That's the most important time frame for me for Bitcoin right now because this bounce is playing out. It's that hourly time frame. And again, looking for a lower high, it'll just be a question of whether or not we form a higher low and then a higher high after that. So just want to touch base on the alert system that we have because I love looking back at these charts, and obviously, you know, the alerts were firing off last night like crazy, but just looking back to see when the alerts were triggered. So this is the Bitcoin chart on the 30-minute time frame, and we had 30-minute bearish price shear alerts. That's the alert that we developed with the chart guys, our own proprietary indicator, but they were signaling off bearish dumps before each dump took place. But look, when the bull signal gave the go-ahead for the bullish price shear, that happened at 5,800, just under 5,800 late last night. So if acting on the 30-minute bull price shear signal that the alert system sent out, next thing you know, an hour and a half later, we have a 10% move up to 6,400. So these price shear alerts let us know when volatility and spikes in one direction or the other are happening. And in this instance, for Bitcoin on the 30-minute time frame, it was a really nice indication for a 10% price move in 15 minutes. So we would have gotten signals for oversold RSI levels. We had the 4-hour RSI alert system going off, and then we have a 30-minute price shear bull signal after an oversold signal. That tells me that the oversold bounce is underway. So that was a nice follow through for Bitcoin. Checking in on what Ethereum's been doing. The weekly time frame, we've been pointing this out for months at this point, but our higher low, lower high equilibrium pattern, and at this point we're getting very tight. The key support that the bulls need to maintain is down at 275. We'll just round to a nice psychological round number. And our new resistance level is 329. We had topped out at 350, Now we have a lower high at 329. So essentially the range on the weekly time frame for swing traders that's an absolute must hold is 275. That if we break that level, I am going to be bearish on Ethereum for the foreseeable short-term future. Well, let's be specific. For a couple months, if we break 275. If we break 330, it's going to be bullish. You can see just a clear tightening range, volume dropping off. This is a textbook equilibrium pattern of the market finding its price range within, new all-time highs, all-time breakout, and now just bouncing around tighter, tighter, tighter. Volatility is dropping off, and we are going to see a volume spike and a spike in volatility when this break does occur. So we're either going to see a big breakout or a breakdown. I anticipate it's going to happen before 2018, and I would not be surprised to see it happen within the next 3 weeks. So that's what we're going to be watching very closely. We'll certainly be shouting from the hilltops when it does happen. Looking at the daily time frame is how we've been affected here by this Bitcoin dump. We're holding up. We are seeing negative correlation, downside action with the Bitcoin dump, but we're holding up. And we have inside bars on the daily time frame. So there's another signal that the alert system will let us know when we get a daily inside bar break. Right now, a break of 301.04 is bearish, and a break of 316.55 is bullish if just going off of these daily inside bars. So checking in on the 4-hour time frame, we can see an equilibrium pattern. So we have an equilibrium pattern on the weekly. It is the word of eternity for technical analysis, equilibrium. Look at this pattern. We have our low, our high of the bounce is 330, higher low, lower high at 319.94, higher low. And as this bull move was occurring this afternoon, we were talking about it in the chat room, and I was saying, and other people were recognizing it as well, we're likely to set a lower high compared to 320, and we're likely to stay in the equilibrium pattern. Doesn't mean we're going to. It just means if this pattern is going to continue playing out, we're going to set a lower high. So people were talking about, should I make a bullish entry in Ethereum when it's at 315, 316? And I'm saying, no, we are going to anticipate a lower high, and we're likely to hit that lower high soon. So that's our new lower high at 316.55, and our most recent higher low, the bulls are trying to hold at 306. So you can see it's just getting tighter and tighter, and hopefully these lines aren't confusing, but it's just high, low, lower high, higher low, lower high, higher low, just ping-ponging back and forth, getting tighter, volume dropping off. We're going to see a clear break of this 4-hour equilibrium pattern sometime tomorrow morning, in my opinion. Obviously, that can be changed anytime, news would come out, would definitely change that time frame. But if no news comes out, we will be looking for a break sometime tomorrow morning. So that's what the range I'm watching right now, 306 to 316.55. And Ethereum stood out as a lead bull today because of this move right here. This was in this afternoon, increasing bull volume. And the fact that we broke out, neither Bitcoin nor Litecoin was seeing the same kind of strength. So Ethereum did stand out and separate from the herd and separate from the correlation when we did see this break occur. So that's why Ethereum is in the #1 spot where we currently stand in the last 48 hours because of that move that the bulls were able to pull off in this afternoon. So here's now our higher low. The bulls are trying to hold 306. It's not a must-hold level. I would say the must-hold level is 301.04. We could still pull back on this weak bounce and still try and maintain that 300 psychological support. And that's the level where if that breaks, that's a clear bear break for me. And that's also the low of the daily inside bar when the alert system would signal bear break of the inside bar. So just watching things tightening up. If Bitcoin dumps down and breaks 55.11, the recent low on Coinbase, we're going to look for Ethereum and Litecoin to likely break bearish as well. It is possible they can hold up and not see that weakness, but odds are that we are more likely than not to see downside, and we have to be cautious and protective against that. I currently am sitting in all cash. I made that Bitcoin trade this morning. I took a very small position in Litecoin today and exited for a very small loss, just under break even, when I didn't see anything develop, and now just being patient. And I'll play another oversold bounce on Bitcoin if we get it down into the low $5,000 range. Otherwise, waiting for a break of this 4-hour equilibrium pattern on Ethereum, which could give another trade opportunity. So patiently waiting. Here's the recap of the alert system for Ethereum last night or over the past couple days. We had some 15-minute bearish price shear signals sent out. And what really stands out to me here is we had an oversold RSI 15-minute alert sent out, and then we had a bearish 15-minute price shear alert. So that tells me we're already oversold, and now we're seeing a dump down. So that tells me that we're likely going to get extremely oversold, and that's an oversold bounce entry opportunity. And then we pulled back from there. We bounced from the low 290s. And over the next, day or two, we were up at 320 from there. So very significant 8 to 10% move. If just playing the bullish price shear indication, that sent off at 306. And next thing you know, a few hours later, we're up in the 320s. So a 5% opportunity if just going off that signal alone. And then we had another one here just this afternoon, bullish price shear signal on the 15-minute time frame sent off at 308. And next thing we know, we're up at 316 on the 15-minute time frame just a couple hours later. So these price shears are quickly becoming my favorite alert. And obviously I love the RSI. I'll never forget the RSI. It's always in my heart. But this price shear indicator combined with that RSI is giving some really nice signals for day traders. And if you use it on the longer term time frame, it can be used for swing traders as well. So certainly having a lot of fun with this alert system and going to continue putting out a couple new indicators that we're currently working on. I want to get some social media aspect. We're working on the volume indicators, and I really want to tie in some social media so we can gauge hype and get alerted when the social media world is talking about, certain things, certain fundamental events, certain coins. So on to Litecoin. Weekly time frame is the same equilibrium pattern that Ethereum is. It's just taking place in a shorter time frame. This equilibrium pattern started at the end of August, and for Ethereum, the equilibrium pattern started all the way back in June. So the commonality between the two is that it's coming after the all-time high, the breakout, the huge surge, the all-time high, and then the equilibrium. So Litecoin is doing the same thing with our high, our low, lower high, and I want to mark these to make them visually easy, higher low on this low, and now a lower high. So the range continues to tighten. I'm watching support of 50.25 and resistance of 67.24. That's still a very wide range. So that's a $17 range. That's about a 30-35% range, and we're still within it. So on the weekly time frame, we could easily stay within this for another 3-4 weeks. Again, I would expect a break. I expect Litecoin and Ethereum to likely break around the same time, and I would expect a break before 2018. So I am just salivating at the opportunity of this clear signal coming that will come sometime in the next couple of months. So right in the middle of that range right now, zooming in on the daily time frame and looking in on this, we don't have the inside bars here that we have on Ethereum. So it's a little bit of a different setup, and it's a little bit weaker, and that's because we didn't see that afternoon bull move that we saw on Ethereum. So for Ethereum, we have the equilibrium pattern with our high, low, lower high, higher low, and then we bounced and formed a lower high up here. So if Litecoin were going to be directly correlated to Ethereum, we would have made it up to about $62, which we didn't. We do still have some supports to be watching, but we didn't get that bounce that we saw in Ethereum. So we have support now. I'm looking down at 57.08. A higher low just formed at 57.50, but we've been butting our heads and topping out at $60 time and time again, this afternoon at least. We topped out at 60.12, 60.08, 59.98, 60 on the dot, 60 on the dot. So very clearly the psychological 60 level is something to keep an eye on. And if the bulls are able to get back over it, that will be significant in the short term in terms of momentum shifting back to favoring the bulls. So that $60 level is important to me, and as is this higher low of 57.50 and 57.08 after that. So essentially the bounce that's happening right now is correlating with the bounce in Bitcoin. And this 2-hour bounce that's currently playing out, it's actually only about an hour and 15 minutes as this candlestick just started forming. But you can see comparing the hourly time frame to Ethereum, although Ethereum's not really seeing it as much, but Litecoin much stronger correlated to Bitcoin than Ethereum is right now. So Bitcoin and Litecoin strongly correlated. Ethereum definitely correlated, but doing its own thing a little bit more. So I'm going to be watching all three very close, and certainly Bitcoin will be the leading factor in terms of my analysis and what I'm looking to do. Could be making a bull entry in Litecoin if we can get over $60 without being extended on the shorter term time frames. Could be getting into Ethereum if we see a bull break of that 4-hour equilibrium pattern. So the main thing is just being patient. We had a ton of action yesterday. Obviously, a lot of altcoins have a lot of opportunity, but if looking at the big three, you want to be patient right now. Checking in on Bitcoin Cash, the big star of the show yesterday. Everybody, I don't have a fundamental opinion. Is it the new Bitcoin? I don't care. Everybody, I just made a video and someone posted, cryptocurrency is a scam. It doesn't matter. I don't care if it's a scam. I'm a trader. I'm making hundreds of percent. And if it's a scam, I'll take my money out and not suffer huge losses. If you are a fundamental investor, it's a lot more stressful in my opinion, where, if I'm all cash, I don't have anything in the world to be worrying about. And the fact that, Bitcoin Cash and this fundamental debate going on and people arguing back and forth, I don't have to try and wrap my head around all that. I'm just going to trade where the hype and the momentum is. So Bitcoin Cash made that huge move. It got extremely overextended. It is a pump and dump at this point. Whether it's going to recover or not, that doesn't matter in terms of the definition of a pump and dump, in the sense that we have dumped so significantly from the high. We ran so far so fast and dumped so significantly that at this point we're going to trade within the range that we've established over the last 3 days for probably months and months and months. Just like Ethereum on the weekly chart, breakout, huge move, hundreds of percent gains. We've been within this range now for months and months and months. We are now going to do this in Bitcoin Cash, in my opinion. So on the 4-hour time frame, to get a better gauge of things, it does look like we're tightening up here, and we have a bit of an equilibrium pattern where we have a high, our low of the pullback at 1154, a lower high at 1800, higher low at 1180, lower high at 1629. Let's see a little bit better view of that on the hourly time frame. So it's an equilibrium pattern in the sense that we just barely formed a higher low and we're still clearly forming lower highs. So the range that is most important for me on this hourly time frame for Bitcoin Cash is 1180 must hold support and 1629 key resistance. And right now we're in the middle of that. So there's opportunities to trade within these equilibrium patterns. And we've had people doing that, getting more comfortable doing that. And even myself this year in 2017, this cryptocurrency craze has gotten me a lot more comfortable in terms of trading within an equilibrium pattern. I used to just wait for the break of the equilibrium pattern to take place, but we're having so much range within these equilibrium patterns that we can trade within them. So an example of that would be here on Bitcoin Cash on the hourly time frame. We're using our low of 1180, and we're anticipating a higher low to form compared to 1180. So let's say we drop down to 1280, and we want to start scaling in and making an entry. I can start scaling in, making a bullish entry, and I will exit if 1180 breaks. So that's a fairly small risk in terms of the potential reward if we do get a bull break of this equilibrium pattern. I do believe this equilibrium pattern will break before tomorrow morning. We have 12 hours until 7 a.m. Eastern time, and it's hard to imagine that we're going to stay within this tightening range for the next 12 hours. I would say tomorrow morning is when we are going to get a break, early tomorrow morning, and we're going to be looking at those two levels that I just highlighted. You can look at the 15-minute time frame for some more details, but right now we're consolidating. We're looking for a higher low to form compared to 1180, and then we'll look for a bounce and a lower high compared to 1629 as it continues to tighten up. So that's where we stand on Bitcoin Cash. Whether or not it's the next Bitcoin, don't care. Just trade it. Lock in that profit when that profit is significant, or when you see the trend change back towards the bears. But as of right now, it's a patient game waiting for the break of the equilibrium pattern. You can see how these markets work, where they get crazy and everything blows wide open in terms of volatility, and then things settle down and we trade within that range for a significant amount of time. Things calm down, volume and volatility drops off, and then we see a spike again, and that spike is coming tomorrow morning, in my opinion, early tomorrow morning East Coast time. OMGUSD. So the weekly time frame here, we've been seeing bounce attempts, but the upper wicks tell us the bulls are not holding on to these positions. Upper wicks tell me that people are taking profit and exiting and going back to cash or going to other coins. So we can see multiple bounce attempts, all with upper wicks and no follow through. So what that looks like on the daily time frame is just lower highs and lower lows. Look at this downtrend resistance line. I drew this days ago, and let's just extend it a little bit. Look at that perfect rejection from that downtrend resistance line with no candlestick closing above it. We do have a higher low of support now. Our low was 548 and our higher low is 601. And what I said in these videos after the altcoin spike in reaction to the SegWit news was that this initial pump is nice, but it's not going to tell us anything about the trend changing. What will be significant for me is if we consolidate, form a higher low, and then get a higher high after the hype has died down. That's when we know that the bulls are for real. So if we were to turn around here, consolidate, form this higher low at 601, and then slowly see a bull break and get over 850, the high of this move, that would tell me the trend has changed. The bulls are now more in control, and it wasn't just hype building this move up. So it's all about 850 resistance, and the bulls want to hold $6 and have to break this lower high pattern. It's an extremely clear lower high pattern on the daily, with the bulls doing nothing to change this trend until we see a higher low and a higher high. So that's what I'm watching on OMG. The range right now is 6 and 850, and trading within that range. I don't like a bullish position unless you're going to be bottom fishing that $6 level, which means you enter close to $6 support, you exit if it breaks for a small loss, but you give yourself the opportunity for the potential of the bulls to show up maintaining that support and head back to the 850 resistance level. DSHUSD breaking out huge all-time highs as I speak. Weekly chart, huge volume, consolidation, and a breakout in a big way. So looking at the daily time frame, the trend change occurred days ago where we broke the lower high pattern. The first bull break was really at 281. There was another clear bull break at 301. And it's just been slow and steady for the bulls, and obviously a huge spike right now. So this has happened recently enough when I was preparing for the video and doing an interview. I don't even know the news behind this move right now on DSH, but it is clearly most likely news driven by the amount of volume and the price surge that we are seeing. So the 4-hour time frame is very extended. We would have had a bull indication, a bull alert on the inside bar, 4-hour bull break at 454, leading to new all-time highs. The bulls are still in control of this move right now. We're watching 500 psychological resistance, but look at the hourly time frame. We saw the breakout, healthy consolidation where we had our high, low, lower high, higher low, lower high, inside bar. Hourly alert for the inside bar would have gone out at 435, and here we are over 10% above that level just 2 hours later. So the bulls are still very much in control. If you wanted to be very protective of your profits, you're using the 15-minute time frame with a clear higher low pattern visible. The most recent support that we have here is at 465.50. If you wanted to give more wiggle room, it would be 425.18. And again, just the resistance is the all-time high, 493.77, 500 psychological, and then we'll just look at nice round numbers, 510, 520, 530, and it's all about whether or not the bulls are able to get over 500 right now. And I would anticipate that we're likely going to need to establish a higher low on this 15-minute time frame somewhere in the mid 400s before the bulls are going to get a solid attempt at that 500 level. We're close enough that we can absolutely test that right now, so I'm not going to put it past the bulls to potentially look for this bull test, but I would be cautious as this 15-minute time frame hasn't established a clear higher low since this 10% plus breakout has just occurred. Thank you, Jamie the Demon, for that news. So it's picking up the 2 MB block sizes that Bitcoin didn't. So that's the news driving the price. And again, we're not done this move yet. The bulls are in complete control right now. When we do see profit taking, we will likely have a pretty significant pullback, 10% plus very easily. But there's no sign of that right now. The bulls still have full control. So all the attention right now is on Dash because of this hype, where a lot of people have cash right now. We have to think about, the psychology of what's going on. A lot of people are cashing out right now. The cryptocurrency space is down many billions of dollars in market cap. That cash is sitting on the sidelines. So you can anticipate that fundamental or news-driven hype breakouts in the next couple of days are going to be more magnified because people are going to be jumping on that. Thanks, Landon. So Landon's one of our members who's been playing around with arbitrage a little bit more than others, and he just successfully did it with Dash. So very cool that worked out. Glad that worked out. But my point is that there's enough cash on the sidelines that when we have that news fundamental event, that there's people with cash saying, I'm going to jump on that hype. And that's why you see this kind of reaction. Obviously, Blue Sky Breakout helps, but the money's looking for a good place to go. And right now, with so many big coins in consolidation mode and tightening ranges, people want to go where that Blue Sky Breakout hype is. And that right now is in Dash. So that's what we've got on the big three. And the altcoins. Dash is the clear altcoin leader right now in terms of hype. BCH, we're watching the hourly equilibrium pattern. Bitcoin, we're watching the equilibrium pattern. Ethereum, the 4-hour equilibrium pattern. They're everywhere because we're in consolidation mode. Seeing some questions in the chat room about blockchain stocks. We do cover blockchain stocks. I've been putting out videos about them, and I have an introduction to blockchain stock video. Again, there's a dozen ways to make money in these markets, and these Bitcoin or these blockchain stocks have been going crazy. So if you have money in stock accounts that don't have access, maybe even retirement accounts, there is opportunity in semiconductors. The names like NVDA and MU that are producing the mining equipment that has been going, sales through the roof this year, they have been all in Blue Sky Breakout mode. The semiconductors are on fire. The blockchain names are in Blue Sky Breakout mode on fire. The cryptocurrency world has plenty of Blue Sky Breakout. So there's plenty of ways to make money in these markets, And it's not just in the cryptocurrency space, which again is why technical analysis, which can be universally applied to anything where there's a market and trading and humans involved, is really beneficial to just be able to bounce around. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. We're going to continue putting out the daily videos, continue with the updates on the alert system, certainly adding Bitcoin Cash to as many exchanges as we can. Looking into the next exchange, we just added Binance as an exchange, and perhaps maybe Bitstamp will be the next one. We'll take another vote when we're ready to add another one. But right now, working on more indicators, perhaps volume and social media driven. And I will check back in tomorrow and keep an eye out for these breaks of these equilibrium patterns. I appreciate you all tuning in. I hope you have a good rest of your Sunday night. That's that. I need a sign-off phrase, huh? Tried it a while ago and just went with the farm animals. I got nothing. That's the way the crypto crumbles now works, because we're pulling back.